He's a can-do kind of guy.
That's what we want. And if I was really happy to see funds allocating to specialty finance again this year, because given the volatility last year and everything that was going on in the market, I wasn't sure how that was going to play out, but that was really great to see.
Yeah, the rising interest rates for the second half of last year really slowed down the debt markets a lot. And, I think it definitely changed how people invest.
We did see a temporary flight to traditional assets, but esoterics, because of the non-correlated nature of the asset classes, came roaring back.
That's not altogether surprising, because how high could rates really go given where you're starting? Theoretically, I guess the sky's the limit, but there is some practical cap. And when you're starting so high, I think it's not surprising that it didn't really move.
I guess, but at the same time, we didn't see those rates move at all, right? On those asset classes, which you would try to argue to me is debt. So you would think if rates jump up on more traditional debt, that they might even jump up on esoteric debt.
And that's true. And the cost of capital to the lender could have gone up also. But at the end of the day, if you're going from a 6% yield to a 10 or 11, I don't know that you'd go from a 16 or 17 to a 20 or 21. So maybe you'll go 16 to 17. I think any kind of move, I would expect at least, would probably be more modest.
We keep talking about traditional asset classes versus esoterics. I do want to thank the tax code, now that we're exiting the pandemic, for creating brand new asset classes that basically fell into our lap.
It's kind of nice not to be blamed for something and actually create something. One of the areas that we've seen is the employee retention credits. And those were put in during the pandemic to encourage employers not to lay off their employees. And our clients are really interested in different ways to finance them.
Right. And there's EV credits too, right?
Sure, the Inflation Reduction Act a lot of it is about clean energy and getting those provisions in. And the electric vehicles is also very attractive. It actually operates a little differently from, say, light tech or solar or wind, which creates opportunities for our clients to invest.
Mm-hmm. Our clients are so focused on the environment, so focused on environmentally conscious asset classes. And as you guys know, we recently closed a multi-$100 million solar loan securitization. That's almost filled up. It's only been a few months, so it shows how much those types of products are in demand, not just at a corporate level, but at a consumer level too.
Coincidentally, another development during the pandemic gives our clients opportunities to invest in a little bit of a different way, which is in litigation funding, where now in a couple of states, non-lawyers can own law firms, which is a real new development here in the U.S. D.C. has a much more limited rule, but it really allows our clients now to not only invest in debt, but also invest in equity in law firms if done properly.
Yeah, but it's just very attractive from your perspective. But from my perspective, it creates a whole host of complications for non-U.S. investors and tax exempts who really have to be very careful not to be engaged in a U.S. trade or business.
No, absolutely true, but with such focus on ESG, this really is an opportunity to allow better access to justice. Lawsuits are very expensive, and in fact, the impetus for the change in the rules is that it is supposed to allow for better access to justice for those who can least afford it. So it really is a way to honor the ESG concept and commitment that a lot of funds want to make, but yet still have a lucrative investment that's, again, uncorrelated.
Yeah, on the consumer side, what I'm seeing is still a lot of states proposing regulation. For me, pre-settlements, post-settlements, it's a mature asset class. I understand to the average person on the street that's still new. We have states such as Ohio, what you and I talked about a week or two ago, that they're trying to pass legislation that would actually outright ban securitization. And speaking of access to justice, that would obviously increase the barriers to it, increase funding. So if your goal is to mitigate litigation costs, there's a prime unfortunate example of some sort of proposed legislation that is frustrating those efforts.
And I'm actually surprised that any legislature would propose banning the securitization of any asset, because securitization of an asset is actually what allows the cost of that asset to be tamed, just like when you securitize auto loans or credit card receivables. That's what allows those rates, as high as they might be today, that's a temporary thing, but they would be higher in the absence of the ability to securitize those assets. And so to say you can't securitize this asset is really going to, I think, hurt effectively the residents of Ohio in this particular case, but any other state that does something similar, because the business is just not going to be there.
Yep. It sounds like we have to educate, in some cases, re-educate the public and these politicians as to why securitization has so many benefits.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think.
look, that's not unusual even with the IRS. Sometimes when they don't understand things, they put in a strict no rule, and then when you explain it to them, they say, oh, well, maybe that makes more sense.
I think with all these esoterics, I think evolving regulation and education, I think that's just going to be the world we live in. And